very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. I'm Jeffrey Uzama, as always, with my people. Welcome, guys.
Yes, it's a bright and beautiful Wednesday morning. Good morning. Welcome to your perfect morning starter right here on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Kayode Okikulu. Let's get it started, shall we? Just to give you an update about the heat and the power situation, because it's a blend of two things comes together. The heat subsided a bit. Right. This is my weather forecast or my weather report right now. Exactly because of the rains. But guess what? Power took a hit. So you have to just choose one.
I experienced about 2 days in a row. They were rationing ban A. Let me repeat, ban A being rationed.
Being rationed.
So I'm reporting themselves to themselves.
So something is clearly off. But that's the update when it comes to the temperature and the power situation in the country today. Thank you for asking.
I knew you were going to go there. I wanted to go there before you. I'm not connected to the power grid, but I'm not disconnected from power issues. So I empathize with you. I feel your pain. But thankfully, we had clement weather yesterday. Yes, so it's a mix of both, really. The heat and then, you know, positive weather sometimes. We wish the positive weather would last a bit longer, but I'm always grateful.
Definitely.
I think what a lot of people are talking about this moment and talking consistently is the next move by Senator Natasha. We saw at the UN yesterday making a case of sexual harassment. She made a couple of statements as well. But I've also seen a lot of reactions. Some people are saying, good one, since the Senate is not taking the lead, she has to take her fights by herself, take responsibility for her own destiny. On the other hand, people are also saying, listening to her, she's misrepresenting facts because there are three issues here. The issue of unparliamentary conduct, the issue of defamation and counter-defamation that is still a subject of adjudication, the issue of sexual harassment that she has submitted to the Senate Committee on Ethics, Code of Conduct and Public Petition, which is, I guess, we'll start investigation soon. But what has been decided on by the Senate has to do with the issue of parliamentary conduct. They said she was unruly, she didn't behave, carry herself properly, and that's why they sanctioned her for 6 months with an option of her apologizing and getting that reduced for a couple of maybe months or days, I wouldn't know. But she's also challenging that in court. That case has now been adjourned to March the 25th. So that's why people are saying it wasn't because of sexual harassment allegation that you were suspended by fact. It was actually because of unparliamentary behavior. The issue of sexual harassment is now before the Senate. But all of this that is going on, there are speculations, there are suspicion that whatever, not much may come out of that sexual allegation case in terms of perhaps it's fait accompli because some of these men are feeling really embarrassed with what's going on at the end of the day. But we are saying that the same energy the Parliament, the Senate, use in deciding on parliamentary conduct, they must deploy that same energy in the issue of sexual harassment. Because the perception now is that the National Assembly may not necessarily be a safe space for women. The reason that is because some former senators are saying, man up. Don't smile with them and all of that. So we don't know the situation of women. They are the ones that carry the burden. So they are in a better position to say what it is they have to say. Whether anything will come out of that sexual harassment allegation, we must see transparency. Senator Akpabio must be seen to testify. She should be seen to testify. Nobody's above the law. It's a serious allegation and it must be investigated, guys.
Well, the last seemingly has not been heard about this particular issue, particularly as we saw quite emotional Senator Natasha Otedola at the International Parliamentary Union yesterday making a case for herself. And you know, she was quite emphatic that it was not just for herself, it was also about women representation in Nigeria and how the political system is not gender sensitive, is not gender friendly. And this impacts on the visibility of women in leadership. And this is happening smack in the middle of the International Women's Month. And recall that it's not just Senator Natasha's case that has been right before our face in Lagos State as well. Just about a week or 2 weeks ago, we saw how female speaker, first female speaker in Lagos State, had to resign her position amid, party, inter-party issues in the All Progressives Congress in Lagos, despite the fact that she had the support, of the parliamentarians in the State Assembly. And, one wonders, how patriarchy still holds sway, even in the political system, denying women expression. And, this happens even, during electioneering periods when women have to step down also for their male counterparts. And the conversation, strikes right at the heart of how or if women really even support themselves in the first place. So it's a mix of issues. And as Jeffrey had said, the same swiftness with which the Senate has treated this particular suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan for, unparliamentary behavior, a breach of the rules of the institution itself, the Senate must also adopt the same approach to treating the actual case that she brought before the Senate. And recall she talked about the need for what she thought would have been the need for the Senate President to recuse himself since the case was against him. So how will the Senate approach this particular one? It will be interesting to see in the coming days. It's been quite a few, longer than the same swiftness with which we saw that the Senate treated what they called the behavior of the senator in the first place, which crowded out the real issue that she brought before the Senate.
So there you have the senator speaking at the IPU, the Inter-Parliamentary Union. Just in case you're wondering, what is Inter-Parliamentary Union and what may come out of this? It's not a lawmaking body, okay? It doesn't have that bite. For example, whatever decision it makes or whatever support they give her is not really binding on Nigeria, because as you understand, the UN and this organ of the UN, which is in Geneva, Switzerland, is basically to support parliamentarians to exercise their mandate effectively and freely, as well as scrutinize government action, promote inclusive and representative parliament. So in that bit, the IPU can provide support for her, can help her champion her cause, but to a large extent, as I said, it's not a lawmaking body. It doesn't have that bite as much. But hey, never underestimate the power of the IPU. So we'll see how things play out in the coming days, but definitely things are getting more intense, and ultimately justice should be done on all sides. But that's the senator speaking there in Geneva. But let's get right into what we have for you on the show today. It's quite a lot, as always. We're starting off with that very interesting issue between, well, I call it the NNPC Limited, crude oil supply and all of that. That is big on the talking points this morning. So we're starting off from there. What exactly is going on with our Naira for crude policy? What is going on with our crude availability? All of our, Nigeria's deals that we've signed, is it affecting supply of crude to Dangote? Well, government says no. What does it mean, really? We'll find out.
And despite the obvious challenges bedeviling women in leadership, we're still amplifying strong female voices on the program. So in today's edition, we'll be having a chat with Assistant Inspector General of Police Aisha Abubakar Baju, an officer who's breaking barriers and even making a difference in the health sector. So you'll be interested in this one.
She's the most senior in the police.
Yeah, the most senior.
That is.
Yeah.
And of course, beyond that, we're also going to be celebrating and talking to another woman as far as this is concerned. Staying cyber safe, we'll be meeting Lola Adeyemi, a woman making giant strides in the cybersecurity space. So when we talk about cyberspace, from the show you can tell that women are not just onlookers. They are taking charge of those spaces. And one of them will be joining us to break it down for us right here on the program.
Absolutely. So from staying cyber safe to staying food safe in that sense. We're still talking Women's History Month, and we'll be highlighting the food insecurity faced by many women. Yeah, have you heard that before? Well, stay with us on the show as we focus on that, particularly women in IDP camps, and we hope to see how we can solve this issue for women.
And away from home, But while at home, we'll be focusing on women in entertainment as we're joined by Atama Thompson, an award-winning Liberian actress. Yes, you heard me. Liberian actress and entrepreneur. And if you like, content creator as well. Promises to be interesting.
All right, so away from all of this, we will, of course, allow you to come in and be part of the show. It's your show. So do your best. So send us an email, post on X, or send us a message on WhatsApp whenever it's available, and we'll be right here to amplify your voice. Where do we go? We'll go to the dailies or go to what they are talking about? Where do we go from here?
I think start with that fire.
From Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, and last night a lot of people started getting notifications of fire around Otedola Bridge in Lagos, outward Lagos, you see. So there's a bridge, and then there's the side, the ramp that connects with the tail end of the bridge and then outward Lagos, and that's where the fire happened. And we understand that one person died. According to the reports we're getting, buildings affected, destroyed by that fire. And you can see the bridge, right? You can see that bridge, and you can see the ramp or the road that goes under the bridge and then connects with the bridge eventually. Guys,
it appears that Otedola is synonymous for, well, this is about the second or so for tanker fire accident. I'm just wondering
generally
if it
around
has to do
Otedola
with
Bridge. I don't know what that
integrity of that portion of the bridge.
I don't know. I think the experts have to explain. If you're coming towards Berger, the descent, or you're going from Berger into Lagos, the descent as well, whether it's too slippery or people lose control easily, there has to be an explanation. Otedola Bridge, that area is notorious for accidents. We've had worse than this before. The casualty was something else, record high casualty. So I do not know what is wrong with the Otedola Bridge. Yeah. Anytime I drive around that area, you just have to be as quickly as possible just to run away, because if you're driving under, you're seeing vehicles over you, above you, on the bridge. If you're driving on the bridge, all of this speed, I don't know, something has to be done. We can't just keep looking and just assuming what may or may not be responsible for the frequency of this accident around the Otedola Bridge. But I understand property, a couple of vehicles also were destroyed.
Yeah, we understand that
were there any human casualty?
Yeah,
one
person died.
In the fire.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Buildings and cars razed in the tanker explosion.
Very unfortunate. Thoughts are with the family of the person who lost his life. So I think that's the church
that's
building.
That's the church, yes.
I think I know that building. I think I can almost hazard a guess which church is that, because I pass there regularly.
And thankfully, if it had happened during the day, you know how busy that place can be. You have people selling various things.
On the right.
Oh, exactly.
And those people, the hawkers who sell tomatoes and all of that around the area. And then we have a police post just constantly there. I don't know. Anyway, please, whoever, I don't know, these tankers. Well, we hope this is minimized as much as possible. It may not be.
I remember just last month, I believe, the NMDPRA had convened a meeting with all stakeholders, following which a decision was made that only a certain, measure of petrol could be carried by a tanker. This particular tanker must be investigated to determine whether indeed it breached that particular rule introduced by, a committee of stakeholders following a consensus that there must be regulations put in place to ensure that this is reduced.
All right.
There have been quite a number of these accidents within the first quarter of the year alone. So it must be addressed.
Got it. The papers now.
There you have it. We'll be following up with that one to find out the cause and to follow up, so we learn from this and hopefully avoid it in the future. But let's go over to the dailies right now and see how the dailies report the stories making the rounds. We're getting started with the Guardian newspaper. How is the Guardian leading today? Well, the Guardian leads with road, incidentally, and road construction and the cost of it. So this is what you find on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. FG may scale down concrete road project over 73% spike in costs. You know, this has always been a very controversial issue. You know, the Minister of Works, Dave Umahi, being the
ambassador of concrete roads.
Right?
He's literally the
spoke
ambassador.
highly about this, saying well, it lasts longer. Fine, in terms of costs, it is huge, right? But in terms of the longevity and all of that, it looked like he was backing, not looked like, he was backing it 100%.
Clearly, he
but
was.
right now, I think
concrete
looking
over
at the
asphalt, I believe.
Yes, yes.
But now looking at the purse, looking at the costs, looking at the price of cement, because we are also hustling for cement with the real estate people and all of that. So and cement is all going high and high and high. So right now, it looks like the federal government may scale down concrete road. And there's this explainer right there in terms of maintenance costs for concrete are nearly zero. So that's for it. Concrete pavement can reduce fuel consumption, I understand, by 3 to 17%. Why? Or how? It's on the front page, and a lot of other reasons.
Yeah, for those who have never seen a concrete road, the Oshodi,
yeah,
that's concrete.
Yeah,
if you're familiar with Ojota, just between Ojota and that bridge on your way to K2 is also concrete, part of it. So
you should be able to tell the difference really with the texture of the road.
Yeah, Papa Oronshoki.
And the color too.
Yeah.
You notice the color is just different. It's not the black or the gray that we see with asphalt. So that's a big story on the front page of the Guardian newspaper.
So we'll go to I think the Blueprint newspaper. Rivers, of course, is still in the news. Let Fubara adhere to the rule of law. Tinubu tells Pandef, urges them to counsel governor return to peace. Supreme Court okays probe of Odili's tenure 18 years after. So those are interesting developments. Yesterday, the president had actually met with the Pandef leaders comprising of the leadership of Pandef itself, traditional as well as political leaders, so to chart a course of a way forward. He said he had actually spoken with Governor Fubara to, to the path of peace, and it was everybody do the best you can to counsel each other and look for a way forward. Say he's done his bit, he envisaged this crisis and he intervened, but, there were failures on parts. That's why it got to this point. But what I see with the Rivers issue is that there are so many missteps on the pro-Fubara, pro-Wike end. And I'm afraid, I'm sorry to say, but I'm afraid that even if the governor presents that budget, which he's supposed to present, the crisis will not be over. There's a battle over the local government council. Now, the Supreme Court judgment, the lead judgment by Justice Agbim, said 3 things. Number 1, don't pay the government any money, the federal government, CBN and everyone, don't give them any money until the budget is presented to the Amewule-led House, because what necessitated that case primarily was the case under Justice Joyce Abdul Malik, which referenced Justice James Omotosho, which was filed before the defection. At the Supreme Court, cross appeals, sister appeals were about 12. I had to sit down to read all of it. You may even get confused at some point. The second thing the judgment says, Amewule and the 26 others must be allowed to do their sitting and lead the House. The third thing the judgment says that, in fact, all elected members, Okojumbo, everybody who is still an elected member should be. But I see people pick one and leave the other. But I'm worried that I believe that the governor will present that budget, but I don't see the end to this crisis yet, because there's also a pending, the one that has to do with defection court, that questions of what constitutes defection and all of that is still pending at the High Court, about 2 cases. Because what the Supreme Court said about defection here was, you started
conduct business with a tiny fraction of the state assembly, right? You can't conduct business.
No,
with
you
a
can't
smaller
do that. Yes,
fraction of the state
you can't
assembly.
conduct business with that. Moreover, this back and forth between the assembly members started even before defection. You just brought in defection as an excuse and all of that. So they really didn't speak to what constitutes defection, because the councils have said, look, there is no print record that they defected. So the Supreme Court was very smart about defection, but the core conversation around defection has not been determined.
But you know what, Jeffrey? I wonder if that reference by the Supreme Court in that particular case is a, an insight into what is to come when the case on defection is finally determined, on the status of the assembly members. What brought us here in the first place is a feud between political father and political
Let's call their name.
Yes, on Wike
and similarly Fubara.
That is,
there's no other way.
Governor Fubara has not been, militant or aggressive about this. If you check the trajectory, although they have had to resort to court and be selective about which cases to abide by, which court orders to abide by amid all of this. But we hope that, there can be balance in addressing these matters by speaking to both parties and not just to one party. And I'm speaking specifically to the president's directive to Governor Fubara to adhere to the rule of law. I think that there should be a reapproachment on addressing both parties yet again to toe the path of peace. It's in the interest of the people of River State.
The way I was saying that, I fear that, because right now there's an argument about the local government council. The tenure of the Chidi Lloyds and the rest have ended, but the House of Assembly had extended. Now, both tenure extension, head of local government council is an aberration to the law. In fact, that case got us his way all the way to the appeal court, and they lost. But now they are saying, because of the decision of the Supreme Court, that there cannot be void if the Constitution allows House of Assembly to make laws, and since the laws have been made to extend their tenure, they are the rightful owners. And then the people some people who were removed in office under Nyesom Wike have come to say they were legally removed. The Court of Appeal has brought them back. So they are the ones that are supposed to occupy the office as the lacuna persists. It's just, oh boy, River State.
Well, if you're listening to this conversation and you're a bit confused about where do we go from here,
maybe I want to do an explainer, not an interpretation.
Absolutely, Jeffrey, about the many cases before the court. But let's just quickly, go to this Nigeria, and the headline pretty much speaks to our conversation on River State. Go and implement Supreme Court judgment, Tinubu tells Fubara. And you have the writers there. At Pandef visit, President says crisis has lingered for too long, advises Rivers governor to implement Supreme Court judgment. Fubara says he'll comply fully. Action, not rhetoric, is needed from the governor. Yeah, there you have it.
I think we'll go to what people are saying on trends, right, Kari?
Yeah, starting off with reactions to Senator Natasha Akpoti's her appearance and the statement which she made before the IPU, that's the Interparliamentary Union in Geneva. Yesterday, Channel Television broke that story, and it was a flood of reactions coming in from Nigeria. And so let's just take a bit of what she said, some of the points she raised, and then we'll tell you what Nigerians are saying about that. So take a listen.
To what people are saying, but I wanted you to hear from Senator Natasha herself, maybe an excerpt of what she said. But as soon as we get that ready, yes, this one.
I'm not here to bring shame to our country. I'm here to seek help for the women of Nigeria. Again, my name is Senator Natasha Otedola. 5 days ago, on the 6th of March 2025, I was suspended. As a senator, I was suspended illegally because I submitted a petition of sexual harassment against the President of the Nigerian Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio. I thought that by submitting the petition, he would recuse himself, and both of us will submit ourselves to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition for a fair and transparent investigation. But unfortunately, I was silenced and I was suspended. I was suspended for 6 months, amongst many other stringent conditions, such as taking away my security, taking away all the officials, vehicles, and other items that were handed over to me as a senator. My salaries will be cut off. I must not appear anywhere near the National Assembly. And for 6 months, I'm not to introduce myself or present myself as a senator locally in Nigeria or internationally. That means I'm here illegally, but I have no other place to go but to come here and speak to you women. Because this is a bigger picture. This is a bigger picture. It depicts the crisis of women political representation. My suspension is not just about me. It's about the systemic exclusion of women from political leadership in Nigeria. Women make up 3.6% of political offices. And in the Senate, it's just 2.8. We have 109 men, and only 4 of us are women. So right now, it's 108 with only 3 women.
So part of what she said yesterday at the IPU, but take a look at what Nigerians are saying. Countess Victoria says they don't know who Natasha is. She's a dogged fighter. She doesn't know how to back down. This user says, I'm proud of this woman. That's from Countess Victoria.
And Chuksi George says, Akpabio, well, that's what you say, didn't quite, please you by his conduct, by not recusing himself, you mean to say, from the process. Ethics Committee also did not live up to expectation, according to you, by not examining the accused and the accuser. Now, whether or not sexual harassment is proven is no longer the issue. The issue is now victimization. Let's be more, show more decorum with our expressions.
Well, this is coming from, Shafi. It means she has to stay strong. It shows she's ready to continue fighting rather than taking the easy way of just apologizing as advised by many wise counsels. Let's see how it unfolds.
And Akirejo, that's Payemo Sheum, says he who runs away lives to fight another day. Secondly, she was elected to Parliament to fight for the people of her constituency, not for herself. Senator Alindume, a senior member of the House, was suspended and the sky didn't fall. Did you mean to say, Senator Abdul-Ningi, that was suspended by the Senate in recent times, right? But hey, there you have that statement from Akiriajo.
Okay, let's go to the next one that has to do with the suspension of ATM charges hike. The reps have now told CBN to suspend that move. This is what you've been saying. I'm sure this is of interest to lots of Nigerians. Mr. Dikba says they should stop being reactionary and start being proactive. The obnoxious policy was announced ahead, just like telco's tariff hikes, same way Disco is also prepping to hike electricity tariff. These anti-people issues should be nipped at policy stage.
And Mystery is the next user on this particular subject, and Mystery says, it baffles me how every policy these days is geared towards how to squeeze the hell you mean out of the masses. I just don't understand it. Well, we hear you. It's quite a lot of increases to deal with when you also consider telecommunications tariff increase.
And another concern for people is what they term or deem conflicting about this. And that's what the next user, Brown, has to say. Saying central bank, and this comment is targeted at central bank. They mentioned central bank. We don't understand your new policy. That's at Brown. Some banks are charging us 100 Naira for even 3,000 withdrawal from their ATM. In fact, every withdrawal that is made attracts 100 Naira, even when not up to 20,000 Naira.
And you know that the POS merchants have followed suit right after the announcement of the increase in fees for ATM withdrawals with their own increases. So if you're withdrawing 20,000 Naira, for instance, from a POS operator, you'd be paying 500 Naira or 600 Naira as against the usual 400 Naira that you paid prior to the increase.
Were they mentioned in that policy?
They were not mentioned, but they would quote that that's how we're also getting it from the banks. And not all of them get money from the banks, by the way. Some talk about how they source it just around,
from filling
around
stations,
commerce areas,
businesses,
absolutely,
and all of that.
Okay, Esteem, that's coming from Esteem Kuti. Harrison Keller 22 says, who uses ATM again? Can't even remember the last time I even visited an ATM machine. Well, people still use ATM, by the way. It's all part of the options you have. You can go into the bank, you can use transfers, you can use ATM. Anyhow you want to do your transaction, these options are available to everyone. So, yeah, but maybe we'll move on to...
There's a next talking point. Do we have time for that?
Yeah, I think we have just a little more time. Fuel subsidy removal was to protect your future, Tinubu tells Nigerian youths. I think he was setting up the committee, National Youth Conference that is coming up. That will be holding, I think, for 30 days. We don't know the modalities yet. We don't know the reference. We don't know what will come out of it. I was thinking about that conference. I'm asking myself, what is the end game? We have Justice Ways on electoral reform. We don't know how many what has come out of that. The most important element of that report has not been implemented by any government. No government has been bold enough. And the Tinubu administration has not shown, has not demonstrated its interest yet in electoral reforms, just like it does in policy of taxes and all of that. And if we can go to Oronsanya report, which we're still waiting for its own version of implementation. We can go to 2014 confirm. Everybody's avoiding, everybody's pulling up issues around states creation. And now I want to add another conference to it. So anyway, but maybe when we get to talk with the people at the vanguard of it, they'll be able to explain to us what will be different from this. But we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll get to the very first conversation for the day that has to do with the crude, selling crude in Naira and all that's been playing out in the sector. Join us again.
Welcome back. So our first conversation today is focused on the oil sector with specific, look at the policy of the federal government, the Naira for crude policy, for which clarification was provided just days ago by the NNPCL, that this policy with Dangote refinery was for a particular period and is now being reviewed. And of course, we know that it's been lauded as having, stabilized the value of the Naira against the dollar, and of course the petrol price. So let's see if there's a good consensus on that particular view of the policy amongst experts. And joining us this morning to have this conversation is member Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Dr. Oni Mobolaji Johnson, who joins us from our Abuja studio. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, sir. So let's start with the setting out already. There are views that the Naira for crude policy has indeed stabilized the foreign exchange, the value of the Naira to the dollar, and brought down, stabilized pretty much the price of premium motor spirit, particularly in the last couple of months. I wonder if you agree with that, and if the stability that we have even witnessed in the pump price of petrol is as a result, rather, of the falling price of crude oil in the international market.
Okay, thank you. My position on that is that the Naira to crude have actually stabilized the value of dollar to Naira, and has also indirectly reduced the price of PMS, which is petrol. What is Naira to crude is an arrangement that the refinery in Nigeria will buy crude from NNPC in Naira instead of buying in dollar. What is the implication of that? Buying in dollar, paying NNPC in dollar, we put pressure, unnecessary pressure, on demand for dollar, and that will increase the value of dollar compared to Naira. And what they have done successfully is to take that demand for dollar off the FS market and allowing other manufacturing organizations to ask for dollar. So it reduced the stress on dollar. Another thing that has helped our economy is that it also reduced the price, the process price of fuel, that is PMS. Recently, you are aware of the announcement that Dangote and some other marketers has an agreement to be selling fuel at 860 something naira, 65 or thereabout. These are part of the effects of Naira to crude, because Dangote can buy it in Naira, can process the crude, and able to sell it to the market at more reduced price. That is one of the effects. But this agreement with NNPC was signed October last year and supposed to have a 6-month period that is ending this month, March 2025. And then it's very unfortunate because the media have it that it was suspended. And then the agreement by default supposed to end for review at the end of this month. And that also goes to the NNPC, the way they handle their things. They should engage Nigeria more on information so that the market will not, based on their body language or the way they perceive the market is going, and give out information for them. So it's a very welcome development. I want to let you know that before now, Dangote do import crude oil. And what are the cost layer of importing crude oil? It will go to the market to buy dollar. After buying the crude oil, what about the landing cost, the transport, the clearing cost? All will be factored on the cost of processed crude oil, and the burden will be passed to Nigeria. But within this period, we've seen how Dangote has consistently reduced the price of petrol because of this kind of arrangements, I believe.
But Dr.
And
Johnson,
not only Dangote alone.
But Dr. Johnson,
you're saying something?
Yeah, I just wanted to, follow up. If indeed this Naira for crude policy is renewed, as the NNPCL has told us, following the expiration of the first 6 months, for another 6 months, and then the price of crude oil in the international market goes up, perhaps due to emerging trends apart from what we're seeing now playing out with actors, what are the guarantees that the price of petrol will not go up back home in Nigeria?
Yeah, you see, one of the silent important thing we need to look for in that agreement, the agreement says subject to availability. Presently, the burning crude is selling in the international market at 73 point something per barrel. And then there is tendency, just like you said, that it can go up. But another good thing you also have to look at is presently Nigeria is producing above the OPEC quota. As at last month, they have 70,000 barrels per day over the OPEC quota. I think what we need to do is, while we want to export as many as possible, we should drill more. Government should provide security along the exploration process. So we can export as much as we want for export markets. We can also sell, of course, crude to Naira. They are going to buy at the Naira equivalent to dollar. But no matter give or take, it is still better. It is still it will reduce the cost for the refinery if we are still having the kind of agreement, irrespective of increase in the value of crude oil in the international market. We still have some form of advantages. Indirectly, it will reduce the demand for dollar, that which cannot take out. It will reduce the demand for dollar. And if we have our exchange rate being reduced, you can see it. Presently, we have Naira is appreciating and getting a very good value at the FX market. So it will reduce. We should focus that. Not, of course, it will also increase the price of the fuel because it's a force of demand and supply. What the refinery buy, that's what they are going to sell. Right. So if the price increase at the international market, the price of fuel will be reduced. But one benefit that we cannot take out of it is that it will reduce the demand for dollar.
But on the flip side,
that is what we should concentrate on.
On the flip side, so we get a good balance. Yes, there may be reduced demand for dollars, at least from the refineries side, to try to purchase Nigerian crude, that is. A lot of them still import crude from outside, so they still seek dollar, by the way, to import that, right? So it's maybe a little bit of reduction for them, or maybe consequential enough, but that's on the one hand. But a bit I want you to also speak to is the fact that for Nigeria now, that much crude that they are selling for Naira means they are not getting, or the government is not getting dollars, the much needed dollars you get in government coffers, which of course we know how that can also improve the value of the Naira and increase supply. Right, so you're looking at the demand bit, which some would say may not be consequential enough. But what about the fact that it is also affecting the dollars that Nigeria gets from its crude oil? It's meant to be some sort of export, right? An export in your balance of trade. You're meant to get the dollars and reduce, you know, a lot of dollars chasing Naira instead of Naira just still chasing Naira. So in the terms of supply, don't you think that also is some sort of a downer in this conversation?
Thank you, because NAPC, Nigeria need to earn dollar in order to stabilize its economy. So your point is that if we are selling at Naira, it's going to reduce the amount, the value, the quantity of the dollar that Nigeria will earn in order to sell to the other sector. Please don't forget that Nigeria is a member of OPEC, and the best way we can sustain this, like I've said, is the trend we're already seeing in the market. Nigeria producing far more than the OPEC, quota. And presently, like I said, last month, we have about 70,000 metric barrels per day that exceed. So my own view is that if we supply more sufficiently to the international market, and you also need to remember too, that the supply and demand is also at the international level. Those are also the forces that play out. If international markets supply more crude to the international, Nigeria supply more crude, or all the members of OPEC supply more crude to international market, it will also affect the price of the crude at international market. It will reduce the number of dollars that Nigeria is expecting to receive at international market. So the answer is this: we should produce as much as the international market needs so that we can earn our dollar in line with the OPEC regulation, so that OPEC will ensure that the price are stable and the policy along that line, the member are earn more in dollars. And we should also produce more, because it will really help us and it help Nigerian economy if you produce more than what we need at international market for local refineries. Let me tell you this: as we speak, the NAPC cannot meet Dangote demand for crude. And then, look at it. They cannot meet demand, and the Dangote and other refinery get to the international market to import more. It will increase the price. And inflation is the key. What is killing us now is inflation. And energy, cost of energy, is a greater determinant of the inflation. So the solution to that is that Nigeria should produce more for them to earn dollars, and they should also dream more for Nigerian refinery so that we can have the price of PMS to be stabilized. So in this way, we win on both ends, both receiving dollars to finance Nigerian budget or to stabilize, for Nigeria to have more to sell to Nigerian in other sectors, and also to produce more for our refinery in Nigeria, so that we can also able to stabilize what does it called? See, we have been thinking to do this, and that is why we have the price variation. You will hear NNPC is selling fuel at a certain price, and this other marketer is selling at a certain price. This is it. We cannot say because we want to make money, Nigerians want to make money and suffer many Nigerians. It's a loop-sided policy. So my point is they should produce more, and good enough. We already been seeing the trend. Last month, they exceed the OPEC quota by 75,000 barrels per day. They should sustain that. They should produce more so that they're able to also meet the local refinery. And they also able to supply.
Johnson.
Too much supply to the international market will also reduce the price of the crude at the international market.
So, Dr. Johnson, your advocacy for increased production also brings us back to the conversation on transparency between both parties. While the NNPCL is telling us that, okay, since the start of the Naira for crude policy, it has indeed supplied 84 million is it liters now, or barrels of crude to Dangote refinery. We're hearing that Dangote is saying that NNPCL has not met its crude oil production supply quota to Dangote, that is supposed to be supplying 385 barrels of 1,000 barrels of crude oil to the refinery, but it's falling short. Whereas we're also hearing that the NNPCL is saying that Dangote is supposed to be supplying 25 million liters of petrol per day to the domestic market, but it's not, meeting that particular target. So who really should we believe amid all of these conversations, and how is it impacting on, the price, the expected stability in price that we're supposed to be seeing? If indeed, one party is falling short, are we supposed to be seeing more reduction in the pump price of petrol than we're seeing now?
Okay, let me start from the last point. If a particular party is not supplying, like NNPC is not meeting Dangote quota, what is supposed to supply to Dangote, this is what will happen. The difference of what they need to meet, Dangote will need to import that at the international market. And we have a reduction price that they buy at Naira on one hand, and then we have the hybrid price that has to do with the logistics, shipping, landing costs, clearing costs to the Dangote refinery. So we have the average of the price, and then the selling price will be on the average of the cost of the one they import and the one they get locally. Now, from between October to now, the information we have there is that NNPC claimed that they have supplied Dangote over 48 million barrels. And then the other refinery, the total number of barrels they have supplied for crude to Naira is about 84 million barrels or thereabouts. You see, that's why I'm saying this. One of the problems of the NNPC is that they have to engage Nigerians. They have to be very open. And that is what this government has not been able to get NNPC to do. There's a lot of... NNPC will not speak. It was on the social media before Shoneye, the spokesperson, now referred to that. NNPC is supposed to be giving Nigerian information. There should be a clear information of the number of crude the NNPC export per day, how they sell it, the number that go into the federation account that go into that they make for Nigeria, the number of crude they supply to local refinery. Until we have this kind of engagement, the policy they enter into with local refinery, the benefit of the policy, the impact of the policy on Nigerian economy, NNPC need to engage more. And in engaging more, they need to come clear, because whatsoever you say, the people have to go and fact check and really hold you responsible on that. They should not shy away from this. See, that is also an issue, but and they also need to come clear. So because they are unable to meet up to what they should supply to the local refinery, of course, it will affect, they are going to have a marginal increase in the cost of PMS that the Nigerians are buying. Yeah. Thank you.
The need for transparency, that would be a fine place to leave it. Dr. Onimobolaji Johnson is a member of the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us on this particular subject.
Thank you for having me.
And from the oil sector, we transit to something equally interesting. We'll be talking with a woman that is breaking barriers in not just one field, in many fields. So stay with us, we'll be right back.
So absolutely. We have her joining us on the show this morning. Assistant Inspector General of Police Aisha Abubakar Baju is our guest. She's the most senior female woman in the Nigeria Police Force. And she's live in our Abuja studio. Good morning, AIG. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me.
And happy Women's History Month, AIG. Happy International Women's Day in arrears. There's a lot of celebration for women, and that's why we thought to have this conversation with you to celebrate women in the force, your contributions to securing Nigeria. So thank you so much for your service on that level. But I'm really intrigued by your story, AIG, because I don't know if it is before or after that AIG. We also have doctor, because you're a vet doctor. You joined the police force as a doctor. So speak to us about your journey for young girls out there who see you and just think, maybe this happened overnight. Walk us through your journey up until this point, the most senior female in the police.
Well, thank you very much. Talking about celebrations, yes, we had celebrated a lot before I go back to myself. I also want to inform you that this year marks 70 years of women in policing in Nigeria.
Wow.
So, yeah, so the first set of female officers to be enlisted into the Nigerian police force was in 1955 in April. So it's going to be 70 years this year having women in policing.
That's beautiful.
So that's another celebration for us.
Amazing. So speak to us about your story, AIG.
Thank you very much. Well, as you said, I came from a very humble background, from a beautiful city of Biu in Borno State. And I grew up virtually in Adamawa State with my maternal grandmother. And I went to do my primary, secondary school. My grandmother, I was brought up by my grandmother, who was a matron in a secondary school, even though she was... she never went to a formal school, so to say, but based on what she does as a matron, you know how matrons are in those days. So I came up from that background of a matron, somebody that was really passionate about education and so on and so forth. So after my primary, secondary school in Gombe and Hong, respectively, I got, again, admission to Ahmadu Bello University Zaria to do my IJMB, after which I proceeded to the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine to do my DVM degree. I graduated in 1994. I did my NYSC, coincidentally, well, I think on a very good note, I did my NYSC with the Nigerian Police Force here in Abuja. And I think that was where I fell in love with the job. After which I actually got enlisted into the Nigerian Police Force immediately after my NYSC, that same year in 1995. And then I joined as an assistant superintendent of police and trained at the Police College Ikeja. So, well, the journey was there. And for me, coming from my background, I'm somebody that always liked to go to school. And police also provided me with that opportunity to develop myself further. So I got an admission to do my PhD, straight MPhil PhD route in the University of Plymouth in the United Kingdom. And then I got an award for that PhD from UNESCO L'Oreal for the UNESCO L'Oreal Fellowship for Young Women in Science. So I was one of the 14 women in the world that got that fellowship, which supported my PhD work. And I came back, and then I also did, although it's in view, I'm doing almost rounded up master's also in security and strategic studies. And then I grew through the rank, went also for different training in policing, went to the Staff College for intermediate, junior and intermediate command course in the Staff College in Jos. And I've done a lot of other courses for policing, both within and outside this country. At least police have provided that opportunity for me to develop myself further, and I'm really grateful for that. So in a short while, I'm happily married, and we have 3 children. So working, being a police officer, a wife, and then a career woman.
Amazing story, AIG. The reason we had to do this because we needed to spotlight someone at your level, AIG. But I want you to respond to a few things. I haven't been in the police. This should be your 30th year in the Nigerian police force. I understand you joined in 1995. And you talked about 70 years of women being in the Nigerian police force. But we've not had the blessing, I use that word deliberately, of having a female IGP, in the Nigerian police. Why do you think that is? And should we be expecting someone like you? Because you should have like 5 more years to be in the police, so, or even 10 more years, given the adjustment, if you become an IGP.
I didn't get the question. I'm not hearing what.
I said 70 years down the line, we haven't gotten a female IGP. Why do you think that is? And you've been in the force for 30 years or so. Should we be hoping that someday before you leave service, we should see you there?
Well, you know, the position of the Inspector General of Police is at the discretion of Mr. President. Whosoever the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria finds worthy, it's only one IG that can be in one particular time. There cannot be 2 IGs. So the most important thing is that women are given opportunities to grow. Women are given opportunity to develop themselves in the Nigerian police force. If you look at my own story, I came in with a DVM degree. I have a master's, I have a PhD, I have some other qualifications. So it has given us the opportunity to develop ourselves. And I believe that it's just a matter of time. Maybe sometimes, well, it's, and as I said, women are doing very well. So far, so good. There can only be one Inspector General of Police. And I don't think it has anything to do with the gender. It's just at the discretion of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Whosoever he finds worthy of that office, of course, he will give them. So I look at opportunities of being placed, I mean, for being able to develop yourself and then also contribute your own quota, irrespective of your gender.
And you know, your story is interesting. For me, I'm fascinated about how you fell in love with the force, because if you counted the list of, you know, fields of professional practice to fall in love with, the police force will not be one of them for most Nigerians, particularly young Nigerians. And you're married to a traditional ruler in Taraba State, who is also, by the way, a vet. Talk to us about those aspects. 2 in 1.
Well, as I said, you know, I never planned to become a police officer. Really, it has not been part of one of those careers I've ever thought for myself. But, you know, sometimes fate also drives you to wherever you find you, I mean, wherever it is that God has destined for you. As I said, growing up, I keep telling people that I used to be very afraid of the police. And in those days when I was growing up also, that when I become naughty at home, my grandmother would say, I will call the police for you and I will go under the bed. So for my family, it was a big shock and surprise that I ended up being a police officer. And when I came for NYSC, truly, honestly, I'm telling you, it's not just for the cameras. After my 1 year in service and my interaction with the Nigerian police, the policemen, women in the force, and I see what it is to be a police officer, I truly fell in love with the job. And I ended up being a police officer, and I'm happy. And I keep saying that if I'm coming back to this world again, I guess I want to be a police officer. It's a very proud job. It's satisfying.
That's really cheery to hear. And I can see the way you're beaming with smiles. I think you should be one of the poster girls in that sense for the police. If they want to drive recruitment, just put you out there. I bet a lot of people will sign up to the police just seeing how you speak, how you carry yourself and your story. But you know, we're in the Women's History Month, and there's been a lot of things happening. We talked about the Senate, for example, you know, Senator Natasha versus the Senate President, and maybe the Senate at large. you know, how that has left a very bad taste in the mouth. And people are asking, how well are our institutions, governments, even businesses, families protecting women? The police force as it is right now, over the past 70 years that women have been in the force, how well would you say the Nigeria police force protects women? How safe is it for women where you work as a police AIG now, and for other women across the rank and file?
Well, for the police, it is the responsibility of the police to protect the lives and property of Nigerians, irrespective of whether they are men or women. And particularly for women, the current Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Adielu Ebekteku, NPM PhD, since he came on board as IGP of Police, he has been very, very intentional about protecting women and girls in our community, about inclusive policing, gender-sensitive policing, gender-responsive policing, in line with the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, making sure that the Nigerian police is gender-responsive, gender-sensitive, and gender-equal. Now, being gender-responsive, it's an inclusivity. It's about looking at it, inclusivity both in and out. That's protecting, ensuring that there's equal opportunity for both females and male in the Nigerian police, and also responsive policing in terms of our interaction with the public, to make sure that we look at it from different perspectives. From the perspective of a man, from the perspective of a woman, the needs of a man and the needs of a woman. So that means being gender responsive in our approaches, making sure that a woman, because nobody is being discriminated just based because of their gender. And then coming to the issue of protection, the IGP, I'm sure recently he has made certain pronouncements. He has to make sure, especially in terms of gender-based violence against women and girls, we have dedicated gender desk offices in all the 36 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory. And just recently, last month, the Inspector General of Police, just to make sure that we have effective prompt response by the Nigerian police, expanded these gender desk offices to the divisional level to make sure that we have gender desk at the divisional level. And the IGP is also intentional, is building capacity around these gender desk officers so that we have very effective police response to issues that has to do with women and girls, to make sure that you don't have to go all the way from maybe your local government, that you have to go to the state command level to lodge a complaint of any form of violence against any woman or a girl. So I think so far the Inspector General of Police is doing very well in ensuring that the police is all encompassing and we are gender sensitive in all our approaches, both within and outside the police system.
And that's a welcome development in the force, but we also hope that those gender desks are empowered with investigation funds, such that those who come to the force with cases will not be asked to go and get funds for investigation. But let me follow up on my colleague's question. Regulation 127 of the police force, which provides for the sack of unmarried women police officers who get pregnant, has that been struck out or made inactive, particularly following the case of Corporal Olajide, who was sacked from the force a few years ago because she got pregnant, and that rule does not apply to male officers in the force?
Thank you once again. You see that section 127 and any section of the Police Act and Regulation that has gender discrimination has been expunged from our Police Act and Regulation, looking at the Police Act of 2020 and the police reform that is also currently going on. And also another information is that the IGP again has just last year launched the Nigerian Police Gender Policy, just to make sure that there is a complete eradication of any form of gender discrimination. So all our laws, there's reform, legal reform, and so on and so forth going on in the Nigerian police. I can tell you that the Nigerian police has come of age, we have moved, and the IG is intentional about all his inclusivity and making sure that the Nigerian police is an equal opportunity institution. All those, in those days where the law said that you just recruit a woman police for traffic control, for this, for that, sometimes tigers. No, gone are the days. We have women police in operational positions now. So all those discriminatory sections of the Police Act and regulation has been removed, and they are working tirelessly to ensure that the gender policy also that the IGP has just launched is going to be implemented, which are some of those addressing most of those issues.
AIG, so let's speak specifically. So are you saying as at today that if an unmarried police officer, female, gets pregnant, she will not be kicked out of the police force? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Wanted to put that on the record. I know you mentioned issues around operations, so we wanted to find out the percentage of women, because when we go out and see the people in operations is mostly men. Is there a reason for that? Is it that the police is concerned about the safety of women or concerned about their strength? What exactly is going on? Because it appears that those involved in some level of combat have perhaps a bigger chance of growing up the ranks, if you will. So speak to us about women involved in operations, because we don't see too many of them.
There are women in operation. I don't know where you have looked, but we have women in operation. We have commissioners of police in states that are women, and we have a lot of area commanders that are women. We have DPOs that are women. So those are the places of operation. So we have a whole police mobile squadron that is mainly meant for women. And I know that a lot of women are being deployed. But then, of course, yes, the number of women is not like equal, 50-50 in the Nigeria. It's not anywhere. So we are still, and then another thing is that the Inspector General of Police is also looking at covering those gender gap in terms of recruitment. So there's intentionality also in that, to make sure that we now increase the number of women that are going to be recruited or enlisted into the Nigerian police force, to make sure that the balance to a certain extent is being filled up. So I can assure you that we have a lot of women out there doing a lot of operations, and they are doing very well in their various places they are being deployed to do. But and then come to think of it, policing is not just about just going physically. Now, mostly it's about intelligence-based policing, technology, deploy technology. So there are also a lot of women behind the scenes that are into technology, that are being used for intelligence, and so on and so forth. So sometimes you might not have to see physically that all the women are being deployed, but you can be deployed in other sensitive positions of intelligence, technology, and so on and so forth. But I can assure you that the IGP has made open up opportunity for both men and women to thrive very well in the Nigerian police force.
Well, there you go. I guess Jeffrey also wanted to know why we don't see women at checkpoints, why they are not the ones flagging people down, because that's the interface a lot of people have with the police.
There are women at checkpoints.
There you go. So
there are a lot of women at checkpoints.
Maybe some people want to see more women at checkpoints. Maybe they will be calmer when they approach the checkpoints. But it's been very interesting speaking with you. Just on a jocular note, I know when people see women in the force, they tend to maybe think this is not as strong. But in terms of hand-to-hand combat and all of that, are women really more powerful? Can you take down men when it comes to hand-to-hand combat?
You know, it's about training. We have our women that are very combatant. I tell you, don't try our women police. They are well trained. It's not about looking at somebody that is huge or so. But as I said, there are different aspects of policing.
Right.
And even when it comes to physically, even when we have our female in sports, for instance, we have women in Nigerian police that are boxers that can bring a man down. And so in our training also, we have combat operation, and they are doing very well. I can tell you, don't take a woman police for granted simply because you think she's a woman.
There you go.
She has all the training and whatever it takes to be a smart and very efficient police officer.
And it's cheery to hear that. So one more time, don't try our women. AIG, we have to thank you so much for your time. Don't try our women. We'll take that. We've been speaking with AIG Aisha to Abubakar Baju. She's the most senior female in the Nigeria Police Force. We thank you for your service and wish you the very best. AIG.
Thank you very much for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Well, I guess we're one day closer to having a female IGP in Nigeria. But while we wait on that, we'll take a quick break. When we return, there's more for you on the show, so stay with us.
Welcome back. We're still talking with women, and this time we're talking with Ms. Nihilola Adeyemi. She's the founder, CEO of Secure Ops Solutions, LLC. She's right here in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much, madam, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
One of the things we try to highlight is celebrating women who are in spaces where are dominated by men. So let's begin from that natural question. Where you are, is it really dominated by men? Because I've spoken with cybersecurity experts here that are female. So in terms of critical mass, women, how are they doing in coming up within that space from where you sit?
All right, that's an excellent question. So again, tech generally is being dominated by men, assumption, right? And it's sad that we have very few women on board. We have about a little bit over 26% of female in tech as we speak all over the world.
26 is good.
26% is nothing.
50-50, right?
No, I was even thinking of less.
Yeah. So, I mean, so it's so sad. And we have even a lot lesser in cybersecurity because a lot of females feel, oh, cybersecurity is quite tough, you know. But there are areas in cybersecurity that are non-code. So I think the reason why most women are afraid of getting into tech is because of the code. You know, oh, I don't want to code, I don't like mathematics, I don't like, you know, equations and all of that. But there are areas in cybersecurity that are non-code and they're fun to be. So in that space, I think we need to do more.
Which area is that?
The cybersecurity.
I mean, which area of the cybersecurity?
Cybersecurity is non-code. Okay, yeah. So like the GRC.
I want to win more people for your space.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. I mean, I'm an advocate of more women in tech, you know, and coming to cybersecurity will be excellent because we all need to secure our
So help us deconstruct that perception using these non-coding elements of cybersecurity.
All right, so we have areas like the governance, risk, and compliance. It's called the GRC, you know, where you talk about the policies, the governance, you know, ensure that the environment is secured and all of that. And you don't have to code, you know, and it's that easy. As long as you can write, you enjoy writing, and you have eyes for details. That's it. That easy.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy, that's it.
It's interesting to see, you know, many more women taking up an interest, a genuine interest in, you know, tech and cybersecurity. We had the other day a conversation with a mom who is, you know, putting together a group called Coding for Moms, you know, and she's achieving success in that field. But despite the many success stories that we're recording in, you know, the cyber security field, there are also some challenges. And I'm sure that, you know, you're not oblivious to some of them. We've had increasing syndicates of cybercrime, you know, taken out by the EFCC. And we're seeing that majority of them are, you know, not from, you know, these parts. They're expatriates. What are your concerns in this field?
I think, I mean, that's also an excellent question. So for me, I think it's awareness. People don't even understand what's going on. And the awareness around cybercrime is so low, you know, especially in Nigeria. So it's high time we start talking more about cybersecurity, start talking about cybercrime. So people are conscious. They know what to check, what not to check, what to expose and what not to expose, how to guide their assets.
you know, personal assets, information assets, and not throw themselves out there. Because when you're vulnerable, that's when the bad guys can come in. So for me, I think the society, you know, we have to start from individuals. We need to start talking about it more. Corporates need to start talking about it more. The government needs to start talking about it more. You know, there should be adverts around where people, they kind of tell people what's going on around, you know, and how they can secure the environment.
So despite, doesn't it speak to a certain level of expertise, you know, technical know-how in the cyberspace in Nigeria? Because the numbers of the expatriates that are currently being tried is quite worrying. So how can we deploy that technical know-how, that energy positively?
Unfortunately, most of the tech people are out of the country, you know, especially cybersecurity. I can tell for free that female cybersecurity, to start with, are very few in Nigeria right now. You know, I don't have the numbers because I tried to do the research, but I mean, most of them are abroad, you know, and for some reason, because the society has not embraced technology that much. You know, they see technology as a cost center rather than a solution center. So it's always difficult for people to, you know, put in money where, you know, it's supposed to be. You see an organization start and when you tell them about cybersecurity, or you tell them about tech, or you tell them about automation, the last thing they want to do is, you know, spend money there. They rather spend money on adverts, and you're wondering what's going on. Aren't you supposed to secure your environment? So for me, I think it's very important for us to make sure that we, you know, encourage people to come into that field. If we have more people, I'm sure we'll be able to kick out all the bad guys. And the ones that are there right now, we can actually turn things around. You know, invite them in, change their orientation, let them understand the benefit of, you know, being a cybersecurity expert or being an ethical hacker as against being an unethical hacker. But again, society needs to work hard on that. I wouldn't say government now, we have to start as individuals.
And I'm curious to know how to start. For people who always say, yes, rightly so, government should take the lead. Yes, there's a big role that government has to play. You know, but sometimes when it looks like government is not taking initiative, sometimes the people have to take it and then government will catch up. You have some economies that were built by individuals, just thought, let's come together and make this work, right? And it looks like that's where we're at as a nation. I want you to speak to how we can harness the population we have. Because some of the big tech companies now, China, they're able to harness population. India, able to harness population. Even America, in that sense, is also able to harness population, and the fact that it's always forward-thinking, it's open, and all of that. You hear that China has come up with not just DeepSeek, but Manus now, even though Manus is a bit controversial, exactly what it can do or how strong it is. But the point is, it's making the news, and it's getting all the countries scared that, wait a minute, China is taking the lead. So for Nigeria, because we're still talking about insecurity, we're talking about, you know, gender-based violence and all of those allegations here and there, things that seem a bit mundane. How do we as a nation begin to harness what we have to take the lead when it comes to technology?
Thank you. I mean, that's so interesting. So for me, I've always dreamt of when we're going to have another Silicon Valley in Africa. Of course, obviously in Nigeria, you know. And how can we do that? We have to start from kindergarten. We have to start teaching our kids what cybersecurity is, what technology is, as against giving a 10-year-old a phone, and he probably doesn't even know, he or she probably doesn't even know, you know, the risk in having that phone. But they just feel, look, you need to have this phone so I can know where you are, I can, you know, call you, I can find out what's going on at the home front. And it's so sad that most parents don't even, you know, pay so much attention to it. They don't understand the impact of it. So, and it's getting worse, unfortunately, especially with AI. You know, AI is doing quite a lot, helping us in cybersecurity space, but it's also doing quite a lot with the bad guys, you know. So they're using AI to do a lot of things. You find out there's been situations where, just like we are right now, you know, the bad guys can actually take this scenario and, you know, put it in another form and say things that we didn't talk about, you know. But if you don't understand the impact of security, there's going to be a a vulnerability in that aspect. And something else I've noticed, right? I think that's why I'm not too into government needs to do this. We have to start as individuals. So you go to an organization, for instance, and when you're at the security post, they tell you to write down your name, your contact, and all of that. And my question is always, what do you need that information for, right? And the information is exposed. So the next person that is coming into that organization is actually going to see my details and can use that details for anything. Yeah. So what are we doing as, individual, as organizations, before we even get to the government? We need to start that awareness. We need to start, talking to people and let them understand the impact of exposing your information asset. I mean, my name and my phone number might be my information asset that I want to secure. Why would I have it exposed? Where do I know that piece of paper I'm writing my details in is going to? Who's going to have access to it? So there's a lot we need to do around awareness, and I'm hoping that places like channels will do more of this, so people can understand the impact of giving the information, the impact of exposing their information, and the impact of getting hacked. Okay,
so one of the things I discovered, you talked about a lot of people in cybersecurity leaving the country, perhaps is reward for their expertise not being as commensurate as they should be. So everybody would like a greener pasture. But as a practical one, I would like you to speak to. How do we repurpose Yahoo boys in Nigeria?
Excellent.
There are a lot of Yahoo boys. OPIC, Isheri, VI. There's
other states,
let's stay with where I know the most. The number of Yahoo boys driving GLK and all, it's a big industry. I know that the EFCC has been trying to repurpose them, but what will be your own view as a repurposing Yahoo? Because it looks like they're beating the system every other day.
Absolutely. I mean, if I have the power and, if I can turn things around, which I hope I will be someday, all I have to do is to just get these guys, let them understand how they can help the society and how they can make money out of it, even much more than what they're making right now. So I think the problem right now is the society or the country does not appreciate tech people. They're the less paid, they're the less, appreciated. You can be on that particular role for God knows how many years, as long as you're not bringing the money into the organization, they're not seeing the productivity, because what we offer is service, right? So it's always difficult to appreciate them, and that's why they would rather want to go out of the country or probably do Yahoo, just like you said. But I mean, I think the right thing to do is actually to get these guys together, start talking to them, mentor them. I mean, that's one thing that we don't have in this country. It's not well established.
Sorry, I don't want to break your line of thought. I'll give you a practical example. I grew up in the Niger Delta, and I'm going to give you a clear scenario. When you see these boys who are doing bunkering, when I used to live in the Niger Delta, the money they make, I don't know who is going to pay them that kind of money. So for me, when I see Yahoo boys today, it reminds me of the 90s and the early 2000s when you see this. When bunkering, it's still there. It's a new name now, it's a modernized name, oil theft, but there they use the word bunkering a lot. So these boys, they do whatever it is they want to do, and make a lot of money. I don't know who's going to be able to pay them to say, let's repurpose you, and you can have a normal life. For them, that normal life is the big bucks. That is exactly what's going on with the Yahoo boys. How do you reorientate somebody who will say, he makes $20,000 in a month, stealing people's money? How do you want to repurpose that kind of person in practical terms, beyond talk?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible if the country is actually looking towards having like a tech hub in Nigeria, like a Silicon Valley. And what do? You invest more in infrastructure, tech infrastructure, you invest more in AI, and you bring these guys in. Tell them you're ready to pay them double, because by the time we automate the system, we have a smart city, we have smart country, you can imagine what's going on in China right now. And they know that they're well paid. Come on, a lot of them will want to drop it. They're actually doing it because they don't have a choice. They know if they go out there, they probably won't get the job, and so most times it's not really about the money, it's just they need to sustain their lifestyle. But if we give them all the perks and let them understand that, look, if you get into the system and we work together and Nigeria becomes, we have a better economy, I mean, everybody's going to live good. So getting them together, you know, having that reorientation and also mentorship is really going to go a long way.
Well, we wish you had more time.
It sounds simplistic. I wonder if the system is going to be ready at once, you know, to be able to expand that much and be able to afford to, you know, to pay them double of what they're earning, you know, but it's an idea worth exploring. You said something significant earlier on about how, you know, the practitioners themselves need to take initiative rather than waiting on government. And, you know, Jeffrey's reference to the oil sector, you know, immediately comes to mind. If we must take the lead in tech, why have we not deployed tech, you know, for pipeline surveillance, so to check crude oil theft? Why have we not deployed tech to, you know, check security breaches, for instance, you know, drones, to be specific, to take out terrorists? Why have we not provided tech, you know, to reduce corruption in public service? These are just a few areas to mention. So where are the critical interventions from the, you know, tech, leading tech practitioners in this field to help us solve these daily problems?
Interesting. Unfortunately, like I'll say that again, the passion for tech in this country is very low, and until we get there, a lot of automation will not work. You know, unfortunately, again, most tech people, tech giants that are out there really want to come back home. They want to help, but they are also, you know, the environment is not conducive for them, you know, where you want to work 24/7, you want to put in your passion, the electricity is you know, epileptic. So many things are not just working, and they just feel, you know what, there's no point putting in all my energy and I can't get results. You probably even bring out the solution and they say, oh no. You know how it is when they rather buy a solution outside the country than buy a local solution. So a lot of people are discouraged, and until we get there, until we start looking at tech internally and try to, you know, develop our own AI and, you know, ensure that we have it inclusive, I think we still have a long way to go.
There's a lot more conversation about this, apparently, but we must thank you for your perspective. Nilola Hadeyemi, founder, CEO, Secure Ops Solutions, LLC. Thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, when we return after this break, we will still be talking with women, and this time we're talking about food and food security. We're not done yet. Join us again.
Welcome back. So it's still Women's Month, and we're still very much with the women. So from women in tech to agriculture, but let's be specific, food. So food is a right, according to, you know, the legislation passed by the immediate past administration. But what is the state of that particular right where women and children are concerned, particularly in Nigeria's internally displaced persons camps? So joining us to have this very critical conversation is Ifeoluwa Gbolahun, the project coordinator, Women's Rights and Gender Equality, Oxfam. Thank you so much for joining us, Ms. Gbolahun.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we're going to start.
Good morning to you all.
We're going to start with your work in IDP camps, and we've heard stories that abound about what young girls are doing to get food in IDP camps. We hope that the situation has improved. But what are your, you know, observations and your gatherings in terms of your work in IDP camps as far as access to food is concerned for the population in those IDPs, especially those who are unproductive as a result of their inability, you know, to return to their ancestral homelands?
Thank you very much. I would say it's rather unfortunate that after facing so much form of the conflict, of course, and the violence that perpetrated your community, and you're displaced, you do not have where to stay, so it's like a lot of dilemma. However, most of these girls, would I say women and girls, are faced with this hardship and dilemma to fend for themselves. And at some point in time, we found out that some women would have to offer their bodies in exchange for food in some IDP camps. And that's because there's little or no access to this food. And I would like to say that food in question, it's your basic right. It's a form of human right. And so I shouldn't have to offer something for me to have access to it. So these are the limitations and the challenges that are being faced with persons that are in IDP camps. And most of the times, these people are not just faced by the food insecurity. They have a lot of, they're faced by different forms of violence. And you also have them having to struggle to stay alive. And then you're now struggling to put food in your tummy. So it's a lot of dilemma, it's a lot of challenges for women. And in Adamawa State, where we program, for example, and from survey and from research, you know that a lot of persons that are actually faced with poverty are those low-income people. And then with the coming of the insurgents, these people were displaced. The little they had before were taken away, their houses, shelter, no form of development, so they are forced to stay in wherever they are being provided. That's the IDP camp. And of course, you know the number of the IDP camp, you know the number of people that are in the IDP camp, it's like survivor of the fittest. And so for women would always put the men first. At first, because you want to provide for your family. So most of them would go out in search of meals, in search of food for their, either for the children or especially for the family, and without thinking about themselves first. At some point, you have to, yes, give something to be able to access food. So these are the challenges most persons in IDP camps face because of the little or no access to food in these camps.
So there's an uncertain number of data of IDP camps in the country, the exact number at the moment. We know there are some in Benue, Borno, in the Federal Capital Territory. But how far-reaching is this particular challenge that you talk about women having to offer themselves, their bodies in exchange for food? How far-reaching is it in the camps that we know exist currently in the country?
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to say that let's not overlook the support and then the effort of international NGOs and also even the government. A lot of times, especially with the flooding in Borno State, there's been influx of international NGOs supporting and ensuring that people have the adequate access to the basic needs, which is shelter, the food and all of those. It doesn't mean that there are no challenges and there are no, this challenge that we're talking about women having to offer their body at some point to be able to access food. And I would say it's not really on the high currently. For Oxfam currently has an ongoing project in actually providing basic needs for the people in Borno State. So, and it's not Oxfam alone, there are a lot of international NGOs that have actually swung into action to ensure that people are provided with the basic need. I've seen in some point even as overlooked as Panadol. Sometimes people feel like, oh, giving them medications and all of those, actually not needed. So people have done at different point in time, different needs for these women and girls. So I would say that the percentage is actually not on the high currently, unlike before, where we are struggling to attending to the basic need, and then you are also struggling to see that people that are faced with discrimination or inequality or some sort of violence are actually reduced. So I would say currently, as the nation stands, with the different IDP camps at different states, in Benue, in Adamawa State, in Yobe, in Borno, and then some of part of Plateau State, I would say that it's actually really, really reduced compared to what we keep recording at some point in time in the years past.
So what form of intervention would you say for people that are even in the urban centers who are also very hungry? IDPs is in an extreme situation. Nobody wants to live outside their normal homes or ancestral homes and all of that. But there are persons in urban centers as well who are really struggling given the state of the economy. And so I'm asking questions based on level of intervention at community level and at government levels.
So if I get your question correctly, because the mic is...
okay, I was talking about the fact that it's not just IDP camps that we have issues of around food and hunger. There are people living in urban centers, which I want you to speak to as well, who are struggling based on the situation the country has found itself, the reforms of the government, which they say is a temporary pain for greater gain tomorrow. And so what form of intervention can be used to cushion this besides what is going on? Because sometimes even when the government says they are doing stuff, people really don't believe whether it's going on or not, and whether it is moving the needle sufficiently to be able to aggregate sufficiency to sustain the people.
All right. From my point of view, I feel we should have a holistic approach. And I would come from a point of the bottom-top approach. And the bottom-top approach in the sense that, yes, I understand there are quite a lot of people in the urban setting that are also faced with this abject poverty. And that's because of the economic situation. And so you have a lot of people that actually do not even have jobs. We have thousands and millions of youth that are being graduated and then they are unemployed. And so if I would want to provide a solution, I will employ that we have strategies, not just also strategy. We should also start looking at aspects not about jobs right now. There are different forms of work that you can actually access. I was listening earlier on to the lady that talked about the cyber security. There are different ways in which AI currently is providing jobs. So we need to also start digitalizing a lot of things that we do currently in Nigeria. It's so unfortunate that we have very talented persons, we have very talented youth, and then there is also low or access to jobs, and then that's what is increasing the unemployment rate in Nigeria. So in the urban setting, you look at having to have a strategy where people have access to adequate jobs, and not just high-paying jobs. And then we're looking at also reforms. We jokingly said recently that if you earn 100,000 in Nigeria, it cannot even buy a bag of rice. So that means you're extremely poor. So imagine someone that does not even have that 100K to be able to provide for his family. So I would say there should be a form of strategy that should be put in place. And the strategy comes from having to have, we don't have data that speaks to how many persons graduate every year, how many persons are actually living in this kind of abject poverty, and how many persons can the government provide solutions to. Enough of a lot of, we have a lot of programs, we have a lot of, there's programs that the government have actually put out there, but is it actually addressing the issues? No, it's not. And for me, whenever I speak to young persons, I keep saying, you need to understand that the future for yourself to actually be successful is in your hands. You do not have to do what every other person is doing. You also have to find other better strategy for you to actually be successful. So that's what I feel.
Perhaps, subnationals will have to rethink, the productivity or the lack of it of IDPs and, in different parts of the country so that they can be empowered while they are displaced. I want to thank you very much, Mrs. Ifeoluwa. She's a project coordinator, Women's Rights and Gender Equality, Oxfam. Thank you for joining us on this particular segment.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
And up next, she's the last, but definitely not the least. She brings in some glamour and excitement to this last part of our conversation. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Tama Thompson is our next guest. She's an actress, award-winning actress, TV host, content creator. That list is quite long, but let's get right into conversation. Tama, good morning, and welcome to the Morning Brief.
Thank you so much. Good morning. How are you?
Very well. And how is Monrovia today?
It's fine. It's peaceful. We're grateful for that.
I'm tempted to ask you, which would you prefer, Lagos or Monrovia right now?
Monrovia, of course. Monrovia.
There you go. But you should have a bit of Lagos from time to time, right? Just have a bit of both worlds. But let's get into your work.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to see some of your achievements. Talented Youth in Entertainment, Best New Actress, Best Supporting Actress at the Liberia Films Awards, Actress of the Year. Walk us through your journey and how you're able to thrive in, I wouldn't say the industry is certainly not the biggest in Africa, yes, but in your space, thrive in your space and still be relevant outside of your space in Liberia there.
That's because, firstly, I'm grateful to God because not a lot of people get to live their dreams. And I have been consistent in every way that I can. And I'm somebody who I love to make use of every opportunity. I don't like any opportunity to pass by. So I think that has been my strength because I've not overlooked anything. Whenever I'm called upon, I'm always there to, to show up, whether or not it's a big deal or it's a little one. I just show up because I feel like everything adds to my portfolio, and when I'm ready for the big stage out there, I will have something back home to point to and say, okay, I started from here and I continued with this. So that has been my strength. That has been what I've relied on over for like 3 years now. And I can say it's going good so far. Though the industry is not a big one, but we have beautiful stories in Liberia, and I would love, love, love to show it out to the world.
So tell us about the industry generally. I know that Nollywood is so big, it swallows up a lot of other industries, but that's why we're spotlighting on what is going on in Liberia. At least I know Owusu Dancer, who I got to meet in Nigeria when he was part of a reality TV show right here in Lagos. So when you see what is going on in Nigeria and look back at what's going on at home, what are the changes you feel that should be effected? Given the level of resources that is available and talent available in your country? Did you get my question? Oh dear. So we hope we can get her back in just a moment, just to explore. She's joining us from Pennsville in Liberia, trying to explore what exactly is playing out within that space, because we get carried away with film industry in Nigeria, what is going on in Ghana, and maybe somewhere in South Africa. But there's a lot of other industries across the continent that we haven't really explored as much as possible. So I was asking, when you look at what is going on in an industry like the one we have in Lagos or Nigeria in general, and look back at home, what are the challenges that you have identified in the Liberian film industry and the things you've seen in the Nigerian film industry, or Nollywood as we call it here, that can be adopted in terms of the resources, in terms of the opportunities, and in terms of the perhaps infrastructure as well?
So one of the challenge that I've seen over the years is trying to make our people to get adapted to Liberian movie, because it's something that they already have a negative view about, because I want to say the people who were there a couple of years back, they were only doing films because probably they feel like doing.
Oh dear. The technology from Liberia doesn't seem to want to agree what's playing out.
We hope that
we
gets
hope we can get
better.
her back as soon as possible.
Rather than long term. But they're also, you know, big on content creation as well. Maybe not as big as Nigeria, you know, but they draw a lot of inspiration, and you can see the similarity in the content that they put out in terms of comedy, in terms of ideas. And Etama is an inspiration in that regard, you know, and it would be interesting to hear her thoughts on the acceptability of, you know, content creation and, you know, what social media does to pretty much expand the space for expression, particularly for Liberian film industry. I wonder what they call it. We know we call ours Nollywood. What they call the Liberian film industry.
I'd like to find out as well.
I'd like to find that out.
I would like to also. I wanted to also ask how much of the American culture influences the lifestyle of the people in Liberia, because, you know, they are the only people that were not colonized by the British or the Belgian or any of those people. In fact, the first people that came back came through that part. So I wanted to see how much of that culture is impacting Liberia as far as the culture of Liberia is concerned, in terms of movie making, storytelling, comedy, in fact, the entire spectrum of the creative space. But I hope we can get her back some other time, guys. Yes, so we've been talking with an actor from Liberia, Etama Thompson. She's an award-winning actress, TV host, a digital marketer, entrepreneur. She's won a couple of awards that are listed here. I wanted to get her perspective. I wanted to get our perspective as to what is playing out in the Liberian movie industry. As I was telling you guys, I've been part of a production of a reality TV show, and I met, one thing that fascinated me is their accents, you know. The way they speak English is very, very interesting, if you will. So in that reality TV show, there's a gentleman called Owusu Danso, who I got to meet, and that's the closest I've been to Liberian and how they speak their language. So I wish I could mimic it and say it on the show, but I can't. It's quite cool.
Yeah, it's just the beauty of, you know, the different African countries, the spice. A lot of people forget that Liberia's independence came way, way before Nigeria's independence. So when it comes to independence, Liberia is senior brother.
Senior brother.
I mean,
the senior brother to everybody.
Right.
Apart from Ethiopia, that were never...
So Liberia has that going for it, but you wouldn't take away the influence from here and there. I know the film industry is either called Lollywood, for those who don't like...
Must there be hood in it?
Well, borrowed from Hollywood, naturally.
Why can't we call our own forest? Nolly Forest. We're familiar with, you know, hood, Nolly wood, right?
Why are you even calling it wood or anything that has to do with
since we want to stay within vegetation, so let them do wood. Yeah, when you say I'm going to the woods in Nigeria, nobody can relate. Say I'm entering the forest, evil forest.
The ship has sailed on that conversation a long time ago.
A long time ago, right? But it's
I doubt that, you know, the practitioners themselves would even agree with you on that. I think they love their Nollywood as it is.
So Lollywood for Liberia, or Liberwood, I've heard that from time to time.
Or Lolly Forest, anyway.
But the point is, it's great to hear that some great work is being done across the African continent. And why we're spotlighting this is to ensure that we find ways to collaborate. I think we know that Africa will do better if we're able to collaborate across the borders. After all, when they say, where are you from? They say you're from Africa. So they see Africa as a nation, right? Even though we try to break it apart. But the point is, find a way to collaborate. But thank you very much, Etama. We hope we'll have a conversation with you in the coming days when the connection is much better. But that's when we draw the curtains, Bukola.
Yeah, we're better together, and we'll be back together again tomorrow. Join us again. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Jeffrey Ozama. Bye-bye.
Sunrise Daily is next. Stay with Channels Television and Kennedy.